A company in China just created the most powerful EV charger in the world, which is 4 times more powerful than the strongest Tesla chargers on the market. Up to this point, most electric cars made you wait half an hour or more to charge. But that world just came crashing down. On March 17th, 2025, BYD revealed a new megawatt flash charging system that delivers 400 kilometers of range in 5 minutes. That's not hype, that's a world record. And here's where it gets wild. This isn't just faster charging. This could flip the entire EV industry upside down. Because while everyone else is stuck in the slow lane, BYD just opened the fast lane. And now the question is, can anyone else catch up? So why does this matter to you? Because charging time, not range, is the real pain point holding back electric cars. Think about it. You don't actually care if your car has a 300-mile range or 400 miles. If you're stuck waiting 45 minutes at a charger, what you care about is time. You want to get back on the road quickly, just like you've always done at a gas pump. That's been the biggest psychological barrier for EV adoption. The cars are good, the tech is impressive, but nobody wants to waste time sitting in a parking lot. And here's the contrast. Most EV makers have been fighting the wrong battle. They've been pouring billions into squeezing out a few extra miles of range. Tesla, Porsche, Hyundai, they've made progress, but they've all hit the same wall. Even the best fast chargers today, 250 to 350 kilowatts, still leave you waiting 15 to 20 minutes. Better than before, but nowhere near gas station speed. That gap is exactly where BYD just planted their flag. Because the truth is, the first company that makes EV charging as quick as filling a gas tank wins the race. Period. That's the turning point we're watching right now. And the stakes couldn't be higher. If 5-minute charging works at scale, suddenly there's no excuse left. Road trip anxiety disappears. Long drives become normal. And overnight, the biggest reason people say no to EVs is gone. But wait, there's a catch. Faster charging isn't just about pumping in more power. It risks overheating, battery damage, and massive grid strain, which is exactly why everyone said this wasn't possible. So how did BYD pull it off? That's where the story gets crazy. Here's the problem, the villain of this story. Electric cars have always carried a hidden frustration. Charging is slow, fragile, and inconvenient. Even the fastest options today don't feel fast enough. You pull up to a charger on a road trip, plug in, and now you're stuck waiting. 15 minutes if you're lucky, half an hour if it's crowded, sometimes even longer if the station is throttled. And the truth is, the entire EV industry has been limited by this bottleneck. Batteries can only take in so much power before they overheat, push too hard and cells swell, degrade, or even risk catching fire. Charging networks aren't much better. Most were designed for 150 kilowatts at best. Add in thin cables, poor cooling systems, and patchy maintenance, and you've got a system that's fragile at the core. For years, Tesla's Superchargers were considered the gold standard at 250 kilowatts. Porsche came out swinging with the Taycan at 350 kilowatts. Hyundai's E-GMP platform showed promise with ultra-fast peaks. And yet, the experience still feels like a compromise. You save time compared to older EVs, sure, but you're nowhere near the instant convenience of gas. That constant waiting is the villain that makes people hesitate before switching. Here's the contrast. Range wasn't the true enemy. It was always charging speed. People don't abandon gas cars because they drive too far. They abandon them because gas stations are everywhere and fueling is instant. EVs flipped the script. The cars became better, but the pit stops got worse. This is why BYD's breakthrough hit so hard. They're not just shaving off a few minutes. They're attacking the villain head on. Because if the industry can slay this dragon, the rest of the EV revolution falls into place. But who exactly is bold enough to take on that fight? So who's stepping in to challenge this villain? Enter BYD, the unexpected hero of the EV world. If you looked at the global car market just 20 years ago, you probably wouldn't have even heard of them. BYD didn't start as a car maker. They didn't even start as a tech giant. Back in 1995, they were a small battery shop in Shenzhen, China, cranking out cells for flip phones and laptops. That's it. No one would have guessed they'd become the world's biggest EV company. But here's the twist. While others were obsessing over engines and dealerships, BYD doubled down on batteries. They realized early on that the future of transportation wasn't gasoline, it was electricity. Step 1 was buses, then came affordable electric cars, then plug-in hybrids, and year by year their growth snowballed. By 2023, they weren't just competing in China, they were selling EVs across Europe, Latin America, and beyond. And by 2024, they had overtaken Tesla in total EV sales worldwide. So what makes BYD different? Control. While most automakers outsource their batteries, motors, and software, BYD builds everything in-house. They design the chemistry, the electronics, the software, even the chips. That means they don't wait on suppliers, they don't compromise on specs, And they can push innovation at a speed that leaves competitors scrambling to catch up. That's how their blade battery reset global safety standards. That's how they undercut rivals with affordable pricing while still making profits. And that's how they've now positioned themselves as the only company crazy enough and capable enough to roll out megawatt charging in real production-ready vehicles. So the question isn't just, what did BYD build? It's, how did this battery company turned car giant leapfrog everyone else? Most people think BYD's new tech is just a faster charger. Plug in, pump more power, done. But that's the wrong picture. The Super E Platform is something much bigger, and that's why it matters. Think of it this way. If you only boost charging speed, you're just forcing water through a thin pipe faster. Eventually, the pipe bursts. That's what's limited every EV maker so far. BYD solved it by rebuilding the pipe, the tank, the valves, and even the software that controls it, all at the same time. That's what the Super E Platform really is. A full upgrade of the entire EV architecture. It's not just a new charger, it's a synchronized system where the battery, power delivery, thermal management, and software all work together in harmony. Instead of being patched together from different suppliers, every component here was designed under one roof. Here's a simple analogy. Imagine your phone. A faster charger is nice, but if the processor can't handle the heat or the battery can't hold the charge, the whole system fails. The real leap happens when the phone's battery chemistry, chip, cooling, and software are redesigned together. That's what BYD just did for cars. So why does this matter? Because it means the breakthrough isn't fragile, it's not a prototype that risks exploding if pushed too hard. It's an ecosystem upgrade designed to scale across BYD's entire lineup. Sedans, SUVs, maybe even buses. Everything can run on the same backbone. This is the part rivals missed. Tesla has chargers. Porsche has luxury performance. But BYD just built the foundation for the next generation of EVs. And the first piece of that foundation is their battery. At the center of this platform is the battery. And not just any battery, the blade battery. This thing flipped global safety standards when it launched. Most EVs today still use nickel manganese cobalt chemistry, which is powerful but volatile. Overheat it and you risk thermal runaway. That's the technical term for when a cell overheats, spreads to its neighbors, and the whole pack can catch fire. That fear has haunted the EV industry for years. BYD went another direction. Their blade battery uses chemistry, lithium iron phosphate. Translation: it can take more heat, it's far less likely to burn, and it lasts longer. The trade-off used to be energy density, meaning less range. But BYD solved that by designing longer, thinner cells stacked like blades of a sword, hence the name. It's safer, cheaper, and now it's proving to be the only chemistry strong enough to survive megawatt charging. But chemistry alone isn't enough. Push 1,000 amps through a pack, and the heat spikes instantly. That's where BYD's thermal magic comes in. Inside the battery are liquid cooling channels woven between cells like veins running through muscle. As soon as one area heats up, coolant rushes there to balance it. Sensors track the temperature in real time, and the software adjusts charging speed before damage even begins. Think of it like an athlete with an ice bath built into their bloodstream. The harder they push, the faster the system cools them down. That's why BYD can slam power into the pack at record speeds without frying it. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about safety. It also means longer battery life. Ultra-fast charging usually kills batteries early, but with this design, BYD claims their packs can last for years under heavy use. So now the battery problem is solved. But charging isn't just about storing power. It's also about delivering it. Now let's talk about something almost nobody pays attention to: power delivery. Because charging the battery is only half the story. What good is filling a tank if the fuel lines leak before it reaches the engine? That's exactly what happens in many EVs. You can pump power in quickly, but if the converters and control units can't handle it, a big chunk of that energy is wasted before it ever hits the motor. Here's the invisible bottleneck. Most EV power systems weren't built for this kind of current. At 1,000 amps, old designs overheat, wires lose efficiency, and control units struggle to keep voltage steady. The result? Slower acceleration, wasted range, and more heat buildup. It's like buying a high-performance sports car but running it on clogged fuel lines. You're never getting full potential. BYD attacked this head-on with the Super E Platform. They designed high-performance converters and control units that can take in extreme power and deliver it to the motor with minimal loss. The system squeezes nearly every watt out of the battery and pushes it exactly where it needs to go, whether that's acceleration, cruising, or cooling. And the result is more than just faster charging. It means more efficient driving after charging. Every time you plug in, you're not just filling the battery, you're getting more usable miles per unit of energy than before. In plain terms, your EV goes further on the same juice. Here's the contrast. Tesla and Porsche have strong charging networks, but their systems weren't built for this level of current. BYD skipped ahead by rebuilding the pipes, not just the tank. And when you combine safe batteries with efficient power delivery, you unlock the real headline number: 400 kilometers in 5 minutes. Here's the jaw-drop moment. BYD's new system doesn't just shave a few minutes off your wait. It delivers 400 kilometers of range in 5 minutes. Let that sink in. To put it in perspective, a few years ago, charging an EV with a standard 50 kilowatt charger meant waiting 5 to 6 hours for that same 400 kilometers. Then came fast chargers at 150 kilowatts, which cut it down to about 2 hours. Tesla pushed further with 250 kilowatt superchargers, dropping it to roughly 30 minutes. Porsche and Hyundai raised the bar to 350 kilowatts, trimming it to around 20 minutes. BYD just blew past all of them, 5 minutes. That's as close as you can get to refueling a gas car. You stop, plug in, stretch your legs, and before you even finish scrolling your notifications, you're ready to roll another 250 miles. Here's a metaphor to make it clear. Imagine downloading a movie. 10 years ago, it might have taken an hour. With broadband, maybe 5 minutes. With fiber, just seconds. BYD basically turned EV charging into fiber optic speed. And here's the kicker. This isn't a lab test or a marketing stunt. The technology is already shipping in real cars like the Han L and Tang L. Customers can buy it today. That sets a new standard the entire industry now has to meet. But wait, this raises a huge question. How can a battery actually take in that much power, that quickly, without overheating or breaking down? Isn't that supposed to be impossible? The answer lies in the science of BYD's charging system. And once you understand it, you'll see why the industry is scrambling to catch up. So how on earth is this even possible? How can a car pull in 400 kilometers of range in just 5 minutes without frying itself? The answer is in the science. And it's surprisingly simple once you break it down. Start with the numbers. BYD's system pushes 1,000 amps of current into the battery at a 10C charging rate. In plain English, that means the battery is taking in energy 10 times faster than its normal capacity. That sounds insane, because it is. But here's the trick. It's all about design. Think of the battery as a giant water tank made of smaller pipes. In older EVs, those pipes were narrow, so you could only pour water in slowly, or the system would burst. BYD redesigned the pipes. Wider, stronger, with smarter valves, so water flows in faster without breaking anything. Now add thermal management. When you shove that much power into a battery, heat skyrockets. Too much heat? Cells swell, degrade, or fail. BYD solved this with liquid cooling channels weaving through the pack like veins, constantly absorbing and moving heat away. Real-time sensors monitor every cell, and the software adjusts the flow instantly if a hotspot starts to form. And this isn't just brute force, it's smart power delivery. Instead of blasting energy blindly, BYD's software feeds the pack exactly what it can handle, millisecond by millisecond. The moment conditions change, the current adjusts. That precision is why it works safely at such extreme speeds. Here's the big contrast. Tesla, Porsche, and others are still wrestling with physics at 350 kilowatts. BYD just proved you can push triple that power if you build the system from the ground up. But here's the catch. Even if the car can handle it, the question is, can the world's charging networks keep up? Here's where the story takes a sharp turn, because even if BYD's cars can handle megawatt charging, the question is, can the world's charging networks keep up? Delivering 1 megawatt of power to a single car isn't simple. That's enough electricity to run a small factory. To make it work, charging stations need thicker cables, advanced cooling systems, massive transformers, and rock-solid grid stability. If even one part of that chain fails, you don't just get slower charging, you risk dangerous overloads. And here's the reality. Most of today's charging stations aren't built for this. Even in developed markets like the US and Europe, the majority of chargers peak at 150 to 350 kilowatts. That's only a third of what BYD's new system demands. Rolling out 1 megawatt chargers means rebuilding entire hubs, rewiring power lines, and upgrading grids. That's billions in infrastructure investment. Now zoom out globally. In China, Japan, Europe, and parts of the US, the grid is strong enough to roll this out relatively fast. But in many developing countries, the electrical grid is already stretched thin. Adding megawatt chargers on top? That's almost impossible without massive upgrades, which means this breakthrough won't arrive everywhere at once. It'll hit rich markets first, leaving others lagging behind. And that creates a new kind of villain: inequality in EV adoption. Imagine a future where some countries charge their cars in 5 minutes, while others still wait an hour. It's a gap that could reshape global car sales, energy policies, and even trade. So yes, BYD just proved the car tech works, but without the infrastructure, it risks being like fiber internet in the 2000s. Amazing where available, useless where it isn't. But here's where it gets even crazier. BYD isn't just waiting for the grid to catch up, they're forcing the entire industry to play by their new rules. And here's where it gets wild. Because BYD isn't just showing off a prototype in a lab, they've already put this technology into real cars. Models like the Han L and Tang L. Customers can actually buy them right now. That instantly raises the bar for the entire EV industry. Think about the contrast. For years, Tesla's Supercharger network was the gold standard. 250 kilowatts, smooth software integration, and global coverage. Porsche pushed to 350 kilowatts with the Taycan, and Hyundai impressed with its 800-volt E-GMP platform. Those numbers sounded impressive, until BYD dropped a full megawatt on the table. Suddenly, what looked fast yesterday feels slow today. Now, here's the pressure point. Customers. Once the public knows a 5-minute charge is possible, they'll expect it everywhere. Who's going to wait 20 minutes at a Porsche charger when BYD drivers are already back on the road? That expectation shift is a nightmare for rivals. And the worst part for them? Charging speed isn't something you can fake with marketing. To reach BYD's numbers, you need new battery chemistry, thermal management, control systems, and an upgraded charging network. That means years of R&D and billions in investment, time that BYD now has as a head start. It's the same playbook we saw with smartphones. Once one company normalized fast charging, every competitor had to scramble just to keep up. Only this time, the stakes are much higher. We're talking about the future of the global car market, so the industry is at a crossroads. Either match BYD's speed or risk looking outdated overnight. And for Tesla, the company long seen as untouchable, that's the biggest challenge they've faced yet. But what does this shift mean for you as a driver, not just for the companies fighting this war? So let's bring this back to you. What does all of this mean when you're the one behind the wheel? First, it kills range anxiety once and for all. You won't be planning trips around charger stops anymore. Instead of stressing about whether you'll make it to the next station, you'll know that even if you're almost empty, 5 minutes is all you need to keep going. That changes the way road trips feel. Second, it changes how you value your car. Think about resale. Right now, people still ask, what's the range? In a few years, the question might be, how fast does it charge? Cars that can't match BYD's standard could feel outdated. Just like an old phone that takes hours to charge when newer ones fill up in minutes. If your EV supports megawatt charging, it instantly feels future-proof. Third, it makes EVs practical for daily life in a way they've never been before. For most people, plugging in overnight at home is fine. But what about when you forget? Or when you're rushing to work? Or when you're on a long drive? Right now, that stress pushes people back toward gas. But with BYD's system, that hesitation disappears. It's convenience, not compromise. And here's the hidden benefit: lower cost of ownership. Electricity is already cheaper than gas, but if you can refuel as quickly as gas, suddenly there's no trade-off left. You get speed, you get savings, and you get sustainability, all in one package. So from your perspective, this isn't just a company rivalry. It's the removal of the single biggest pain point you've had with EVs. But there's still one giant fear hanging over this breakthrough. What happens to the battery when you push it this hard? Here's the elephant in the room. Everyone's thinking it. If you slam that much power into a battery in just 5 minutes, won't it kill the battery? It's a fair concern. In fact, it's been the single biggest argument against ultra-fast charging. Normally, when you push energy in too quickly, the internal chemistry starts to break down. The battery heats up, the cells expand and contract, and capacity drops over time. That means shorter lifespan and expensive replacements. No one wants an EV that charges fast but needs a new battery in 3 years. So how does BYD deal with this? 3 layers of defense? First is the chemistry itself. BYD's Blade battery is built on lithium iron phosphate, or LFP. Unlike nickel-based chemistries, LFP cells are incredibly stable at high temperatures. They're much less likely to suffer from thermal runaway, which means they can take the stress of fast charging without losing safety. Second is the cooling system. Remember those liquid cooling channels we talked about earlier? They run directly between the cells, pulling heat out in real time. If one cell starts to overheat, coolant flows faster right there, leveling everything out before damage begins. Third is the software brain. BYD's system constantly monitors the pack during charging, literally second by second. If it senses too much stress, it automatically eases the current, then ramps back up once conditions stabilize. Think of it like a coach who won't let an athlete push past the point of injury. The result? A battery that doesn't just survive megawatt charging, but can actually last longer thanks to smart thermal management. So yes, the fear is valid, but BYD already built the safety net. Which brings us to the next big step. How do they scale this tech beyond just luxury cars? Right now, BYD's megawatt flash charging is debuting in high-end models like the Han L and Tang L. That makes sense. Premium cars have bigger batteries, stronger cooling systems, and customers willing to pay more for cutting-edge tech. But here's the important part. BYD has never been the kind of company to keep breakthroughs locked in the luxury tier. Their entire strategy has always been scale first, cost later. Look at their track record. When the Blade battery first appeared, it was limited to higher-end vehicles. Within just a few years, it was standard across most of their lineup, from SUVs to sedans to even smaller, affordable models. Same story with their hybrid DMI system. It started premium, then spread everywhere once production scaled up. Each time, prices dropped and the tech became mainstream. That's exactly the roadmap for megawatt charging. Today, it's in flagship sedans and SUVs. Tomorrow, it's in mid-range models like the Seal, Song Plus, maybe even the Dolphin. Once mass production kicks in, economies of scale kick prices down. And suddenly, what feels like exotic tech right now becomes a feature for everyday drivers. This is where BYD's full-stack model pays off again. Because they make their own batteries, motors, and software, they don't have to wait for suppliers to catch up. They can roll updates out across their lineup on their own schedule. That's a huge advantage compared to legacy automakers who juggle dozens of outside partners. And here's the bigger picture. Once charging in 5 minutes isn't just for luxury EVs, but for family cars and commuters, the entire perception of electric cars changes. At that point, EVs stop being the future and just become normal. But if that's the road ahead, it leads to one final question. What does this mean for the balance of power in the global EV race? So here's the big picture. BYD's breakthrough isn't just about charging faster. It's about flipping the entire EV industry on its head. Think about what this really means. The last excuse for avoiding an EV, slow charging, just died. 5 minutes at a charger is no different from 5 minutes at a gas pump. That changes how people see electric cars forever. They're no longer good, but inconvenient. They're just better. And that shift creates a power struggle. For over a decade, Tesla has been the face of electric innovation. Porsche, Hyundai, Mercedes, they've all fought to carve out their space. But BYD just jumped the line. They've not only sold more EVs than Tesla worldwide, they've now set the new global standard for charging speed. That forces every competitor to chase them, not the other way around. Here's the kicker. This isn't a concept car or a future roadmap. It's already real. Cars like the Han L and Tang L are on sale right now, proving that megawatt charging isn't science fiction. It's here. And if history is any guide, BYD will scale it down to mid-range models within just a few years. So the balance of power is shifting. The company once dismissed as a Chinese battery maker is now the benchmark everyone else must beat. And for you, the driver, that means the future of EVs is no longer about compromise. It's about convenience, speed, and choice. The takeaway is simple. 5 minutes is all it takes to change the future of cars. And if you want to stay ahead as this EV race keeps flipping, make sure to hit subscribe, because what comes next might be